Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping into, well, a really fascinating market paradox in Europe. We're talking about the iGaming landscape in Hungary.
Yeah, this is a market our team has spent a lot of time on. And for you listening, we're the Gambling Databases research team. It's what we do. We deliver these really deep, data-driven analyses on everything from local regulations and tax to, what it's actually like for an operator.
In Hungary, it just stands out. It's this perfect example of a country that says one thing but financially does another.
Exactly. A real conflict between the promise and the reality on the ground.
So our mission today is pretty simple. We want to give you the shortcut to understanding that conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, on paper, Hungary is liberalizing. It's moving away from a state monopoly towards a competitive market.
Right. But at the same time, it's quietly built some of the, highest financial walls to get in of anywhere in the EU. It's a classic catch-22.
And it seems like it's designed to keep the pool of operators really, really small.
Let's just hit you with the numbers right away because they tell the whole story. The total market in 2025, we're estimating about 1.56 billion.
Okay, that's a decent size.
It is. And the online part of that is 563 million. But here's the catch. The absolute minimum cost just to get your license and meet the capital requirements before you've even taken a single bet is over 4.3 million.
Over 4 million euros, just locked up for the right to compete.
Yeah.
I mean, in a global sense, that's a moderate-sized market. That money could fund operations for years somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what we're really unpacking here is who Hungary is actually inviting to the party.
And why that massive cost is, like you said, a feature, not a bug.
Right. So let's start with the positive side, the regulatory promise, as we've called it.
Sure. So Hungary is actively moving away from that old state monopoly. The whole process is being run by the Supervisory Authority for Regulatory Affairs, or SZTFH.
And that's the key acronym here, SZTFH. They're the new gatekeepers, right? Not just a rubber stamp.
Exactly. They set the standards, they ensure compliance, and the reforms they're making, they show real movement. Online sports betting, for example, was opened up to private companies in 2023.
Which is a huge signal.
A huge signal. And on top of that, there's a plan for a unified licensing system, probably coming in 2025, which should make it easier for operators to offer, casino, poker, sports, all under one license.
Okay, so that framework sounds professional. It sounds EU-aligned, which you'd think would attract a lot of interest, and the growth numbers seem to back that up.
They do. The population is 9.6 million, and that 1.56 billion market is, it's respectable. And we're projecting a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of about 6 to 8% through 2029.
And what's driving that?
It's almost all online adoption. Internet penetration is like 91%. The consumers are there, and they're definitely ready.
Okay, so a stable, growing, professionalizing market. But if it's so great, why all the flashing warning signs about the cost? This is where it gets interesting.
This is where it gets interesting. And the first reality check is the black market. It's still got a huge piece of the pie.
How big are we talking?
We estimate it's somewhere between 125 and 250 million a year.
€250 million.
Yeah. And that tells us that while they're definitely trying to enforce the rules, a lot of money is still flowing outside the legal system. And that's a huge problem for the licensed guys who are paying all the taxes and compliance costs.
It's a massive competitive drag. Okay, so that brings us to the real barrier. Segment 2, the financial gauntlet.
Right. This is what makes Hungary one of the most expensive places in Europe to get a license. It's not just one fee, it's a multi-layered thing.
So break it down for us.
Okay, first you've got your standard application fee. It's non-refundable. That's HUF 10 million, or about 27,000 dues.
Just to get them to look at your application.
Exactly. That's just the appetizer.
And the main course?
The main course is the license fee itself. A staggering HUF 600 million. That's roughly 1.6 million.
1.6 million. What?
But that's not even the biggest piece. The largest chunk of capital you have to lock away is the minimum share capital requirement.
Okay.
Operators have to show and maintain a minimum of HUF 1 billion in share capital.
$1 billion. So what is that in euros?
That's about 2.7 million. And this isn't operational money. It's just sitting in reserve to make sure you can cover big payouts.
So let's add that up.
Yeah.
You've got the $27,000 application fee, the $1.6 million license fee, and then another $2.7 million in capital.
You're at that 4.3 million plus figure all up front before you've made a single euro in profit.
That is just a world away from other European jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Many are under $500,000 all in.
It's a huge difference. And it's not just the money either. There are other hurdles. The process itself is intense.
What does that involve?
Deep financial audits, technical audits. It usually takes 6 to 12 months to get through it all.
But the clause that really stands out in our research, the one that acts as the ultimate filter, is the experience requirement.
Yes. This is crucial. You have to demonstrate at least 5 years of licensed gambling experience inside the European Economic Area, the EEA.
So that's the EU plus who?
Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway. But by making it specific to that zone, the regulator just instantly wipes out a whole category of applicants.
Yeah, every startup is gone.
Gone. Every new entrant, no matter how well funded, any big operator from, say, Asia or the Americas trying to get a foothold in the EU, they can't start here.
So it basically reserves the entire market for the established European giants.
That's what it does. It's a time barrier on top of the capital barrier. You have to already be big, successful, and willing to tie up 4 million euros for years.
Okay, let's pivot to taxes.
Yeah.
Because there is one bright spot here, right?
Yeah.
The corporate tax rate.
There is. Hungary has one of the lowest corporate income tax rates in the EU. It's a flat 9%. For profitability, that's, very attractive.
But is a 9% tax rate really that big of a deal when it might take you 4 or 5 years just to break even?
That is the million-dollar question, or I guess the 4 million euro question.
Right.
Because while 9% is great, they get their money from the gross gaming revenue tax, the GGR tax. For online casino and sports, that's a pretty competitive 15%.
Okay, 15% GGR.
But when you combine that 15% with the 9% corporate tax on what's left, our analysis shows the effective tax rate is more like 23 to 24% of your gross revenue.
Which is still substantial. And when you put that on top of the huge entry cost, that ROI calculation starts to look very tight.
Very tight. And that brings us to the next point. Operational friction. Even if you clear all the financial hurdles, you then face rules that just kill the remote operating models that so many big companies use.
Let's get into that. You've estimated this friction adds about 300,000 to 500,000 in costs every single year. What's driving that?
The mandatory local presence. It's non-negotiable. You have to have a registered company in Hungary, and you have to physically host your main gambling servers inside the country.
So no running things from a hub in Malta or Gibraltar?
None. You are forced to build a mini operation just for Hungary. That means leasing space, setting up a secure data center, and hiring local staff.
What kind of staff?
You'll need local compliance officers, local IT engineers for those servers, plus all the admin that comes with running a full Hungarian company. It's a constant, heavy operating expense that just adds more and more pressure.
And what about the other compliance, the EU level stuff?
Right. So you're also dealing with all the standard EU rules, anti-money laundering, know your customer, GDPR, and the friction there is just complexity. You need slick, automated systems for KYC, or you lose players. AML requires constant monitoring. It's a very high operational bar.
Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the prize, the players. What are these operators actually fighting over?
They are fighting for a very engaged and digitally savvy population. We mentioned 91% internet penetration, so our platform has to be mobile first. It's not even a question.
And what do they like to play?
Sports betting is the clear leader. It's about 38% of the market. Then you have the traditional lottery games, still strong at 31%, and online casino at 22%.
So a good mix, but sports is the main driver.
Definitely.
And what about how they pay? Are they into crypto or more traditional methods?
Overwhelmingly traditional. Debit and credit cards make up 58% of payments. Bank transfers are another 27%. E-wallets are slowly growing, about 12%. But crypto's still, under 5%. They prefer stability and security.
And there's a really interesting detail in our research about player taxes. The player gets taxed, but the operator has to handle it. How does that work?
Yeah, this is a crucial point. Player winnings are taxed at a flat 15%, but it's the operator's job to withhold that tax and send it to the government.
So for the player, it's easy. They just get their net winnings.
Exactly. No tax forms at the end of the year. But for the operator, it's another layer of accounting, and it kind of psychologically reduces the win for the player, which might push some people towards the black market where there was no tax.
Right. Another competitive disadvantage.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the final verdict from our research team. We scored operator ease and player access.
So operator ease, with all those hurdles, it gets a pretty tough 5.8 out of 10.
That's low.
It's very challenging. But player access scores much better, a 7.5 out of 10. That reflects how digital the population is and the security of using a licensed platform.
Okay, the reality check. An investor comes to us What is the cold, hard timeline for a return on their investment?
Given that 4.3 million you have to lock up, break even is going to take minimum 36 to 48 months.
3 to 4 years.
Minimum. But realistically, when you add in those $500,000 a year operating costs, you're looking at 48 to 60 months before you see a positive ROI.
4 to 5 years. Wow. And for a market that, isn't huge, our profitability assessment calls it marginal to challenging.
Yeah.
Why is the market size the ultimate ceiling here?
Because the online pot is 563 million. To justify a multi-million euro investment, you need to grab a big slice of that. And even if you get an optimistic 15% market share, which is a huge achievement, that's only about 84 million in annual revenue.
And out of that 84 million, you have to pay GGR tax, corporate tax, and those $500,000 in local costs. All while that initial capital is just sitting there.
It barely makes sense. Our conclusion is that this market is really only viable for very large, very established European operators with deep pockets.
Wow, deep.
We'd say a minimum capital budget of 10 million plus, just for the Hungarian project. They have to have that 5-year EEA experience, and they need to see this as a long-term strategic play, not a quick moneymaker.
And on the flip side, you should absolutely stay away if you're a startup. If you have less than, say, 5 to 7 million in capital ready to go, or if you need a fast ROI.
Yeah.
And if your model is based on running things remotely.
Forget it. The local server and staff rules make it completely impossible.
So the bottom line is Hungary's framework is professional and stable, but those entry costs, they're a filter. A very sophisticated, very deliberate filter.
They're designed to create this high protective wall to make sure only the biggest, most patient players can even get in the game.
Which leaves a really important question for you, the listener, to think about as we wrap up this deep dive. When you consider that staggering upfront cost and the pretty small revenue pool, how many operators can a market like Hungary realistically support? Maybe only 8 to 12.
Yeah.
Before the competition just gets so fierce that the cost to acquire a customer makes the whole thing a losing bet.
A fascinating dilemma, and this deep dive was, of course, based on the findings of our research team. For the full text of this report and many others, you can visit our website at gamblingdatabases.com.
We hope this gave you the clarity you needed. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.